Is a plug-in controller from 11 years ago still worth buying? Yeah, I think it is. Let's take a look at this. So this is the Novation Nocturn. This came out in 2008. It was originally $200, and I just picked this one up used locally for $30 Canadian. So you get 8 touch-sensitive rotary encoders, 8 buttons, you get this slider, and there's the speed knob, which is, again, a touch-sensitive rotary encoder. It has built-in learn function to get a plug-in parameter on your screen, the last one you touched with the mouse. It will link it to the touched knob on the controller. You can show and hide a kind of a UI for the controller. It has multiple pages for the plug-in, mixer, and MIDI mappings. And then there's 4 buttons to choose the category of what this is controlling. This is the desktop version, the original, compact, lightweight. You could put this in the backpack and not feel it. It's perfect for on my desk, just by fluke. It's the perfect height for between my keyboard area, where most people would have a keyboard, and my MacBook right above. So that's perfect. There's also a keyboard version, which I've actually owned since about 2009. And honestly, I love this thing. It has synth action keys with aftertouch. It has, again, 8 touch-sensitive rotary encoders. The layout's obviously a bit different. They're all in a straight line. Again, 8 buttons, multiple pages. It's got the learn function, transpose keys. It also has transport control for your DAW when you're in the mixer mode. And then it has 8 drum pads. You can't use it standalone. There's no MIDI out. So you can't use this with a desktop synth without going through the computer, through another MIDI interface. It does have expression and sustain pedal connections and a hard power off switch. Both of those use the same software. So let me plug in this first one and I'll show you what this software looks like. They're both actually powered by USB. And as you touch one of the controllers, it will it'll pop up with this little window showing you the the parameter name and the value. So you don't necessarily need to have that plugin on screen or whatever it's assigned to. You don't need to have the full GUI, which looks like this. So this is the mapping editor. Right now I've got it on a MIDI layout for Reaper, just sending MIDI, just MIDI commands. So last touch parameter here, CC21 with a range set to increment decrement. There's also normal, where you have a range and you can limit the range to 25% of the full range. To get better resolution, you can double the point size. There's so many things you can do with that. And then there's also an inverted mode, which just kind of flips the direction. So that's kind of, this increment mode works really well with Reaper's relative to mode. As well, with any of the buttons, instead of a CC parameter that you're sending, you could set this to a keyboard shortcut. So you can click on Learn. I'm going to do Command B, Apple B. And yeah, so if I had a plugin on screen focused, I could hit that and it would bypass the plugin. Super useful, super flexible. And I don't think there's anything else that really compares to what you can do with this. So some of the other options for plug-in controllers would be some sort of more generic ones, like the Behringer X-Touch, like the MIDI Fighter Twister that has, I think, 16 knobs, and they're all rotary encoders. They're not touch sensitive. One of the cool things about the touch sensitive thing is that you can just touch it without changing the parameter, and you see with a little heads up or what is linked to without actually sending parameter change. It also works in touch automation writing mode, so it is much more responsive than another one where you have to actually turn it before it jumps to that value change. So AutoMap is the software. There's also a control panel or a preference pane for this right here. You can choose how long the notifications are on screen or turn them off completely, and you can choose which corner of the screen you use them in. I've actually set mine to the lower right, but that's something that would be cropped off in the video, so I have it up here on the top right. In software setup, this is for setting up. It's kind of just like a tutorial for getting Reaper or whatever DAW you have set up for mixer mode. Just tells you how to set up the Huey mode. Here in the advanced MIDI section, you can choose which MIDI channels are active. And then there's the plugin wrapping. This kind of like puts it into a container which automatically gets all the parameters and maps them to the controller. There's a bug with it. If you remove the plugin, it actually crashes Reaper or pretty much any other DAW. On the Mac, at least, you can use the audio unit versions of the plugins. I found no issues with them in my kind of brief testing. I just sort of switched over to the audio units last night after talking to Reaper's tech support and Novation's tech support. They're aware of the issue. They're working on it. But in the meantime, at least if you're on a Mac, you can use the audio units and there's no issues. You do need to go to the beta site for Novation and Focusrite to get the latest driver. There was actually one posted in February of 2019 here. So, this will work on current operating systems, and all the current DAWs. I don't know what it's like on Windows right now, but on the Mac, use the audio units if you want to automap the plugins. Otherwise, make up a special Reaper layout, and you just use the mouse and then one of the knobs and to adjust the last touch parameter. That's how I worked for the last couple of years with it. The two units that I have are both used. I've been using this since 2009. I've abused it. It's been across the country. Currently, the pitch bend wheel is broken. It was constantly sending random pitch bend information. I really just need to replace the potentiometer on it. Disconnected the wires and soldered in 3 resistors kind of in a T shape. Disconnecting it just basically wrecks your mod wheel as well. So it needs to have the resistance in the circuit. And I've got some stuck keys currently. I think it's just I didn't put it back together correctly last time. This one knob on the controller is not in good condition, but otherwise it's working great for me. If you look these controllers up on eBay, they're actually really cheap. So you can find these going for about $32, sometimes with even free shipping. I saw one sell for like $1 with $20 shipping. So have a look for them. I think these are well worth getting. And the keyboards, I've seen the 25 key version going for about $100, and I think that's well worth it. One of the best keyboards I've ever used. Because I like this the straight layout here, I was actually thinking of getting one of the smaller keyboards and then kind of cutting off the keyboard section and just having this as a dedicated kind of plug-in controller. After searching around, I did end up finding one of these for a good deal and picked it up. All right, so over here in Reaper, I just have a track here set up and going to insert an automap wrapped plugin. So here's Devilock Deluxe, and my controller automatically changed. All the lights are matching the plugin's control settings. This is a layout that I set up last night. It pretty much when it loads in a plugin and wraps it, it's just going to go in order of what the parameters are. So that would look like this. So this plugin, parameter 1 is bypass, and it just goes in order. So sometimes the plugin controls don't really map to the controller very well. The auto part of auto map isn't necessarily true, but it's still easy to adjust this. So if I wanted the mix to be the first knob on the controller, I can just drag this over, and I've swapped mix and crush. And bypass I tend to like on this sort of middle button. Crush, crunch, my release switch there, the darkness control, and the mix. So yeah, I'm gonna insert a different one. Here's Sausage Fattener from Data Life. This one auto-mapped easily because it's only 3 controls. So I've got my fatness, I've got the color, there's the gain control, and I've got the color. So you can see this knob is a little bit flaky because it's just been abused a little bit. But that's no big deal. I could always put that on this knob, and that one moves smoother. And we can adjust the range here. So like we can make this 202. Try that. And now this moves slower. So it's pretty easy to adjust those things. And remember, you don't need to have this window open. If you're not familiar with this, I think it's easier to show you what's happening on the controller, as I do this. So I'm not using the mouse at all. Let's add in Echo Boy Jr. If I press the effects button on the controller, 2 of the knobs light up. So if I touch the first one, Sasha's Fattener is going to be in focus. And if I press the X button again and touch the second one, then Echo Boy Jr. is in focus. And I'll just show, here's the view, press effects. With the 16 buttons and knobs on here, you can jump between the different plugins, right? Press effects and this. And now I'm controlling Echo Boy Jr. So here's the different tape styles there, saturation knob, my high cut and low cut. It's so much nicer to have these in front of you rather than using the mouse for everything. Buttons for the different modes, bypass button, glide on and off. It's really great to have this. I'll show you the MIDI learn, or the learn function real quick. So the mix knob I have on number 1, but let's say I want it on number 2. I'm going to press learn on the controller. I'm going to touch the parameter with the mouse, and then I'm going to touch the knob that I want it linked to, and there we go. So yeah, either one of these knobs, I'm adjusting this one, and it's moving. If you want to remove one completely, you can hit delete. Once you do a plugin mapping custom, you want to hit the set as default button and then click on the save and just save it to just any folder, just as a backup. You never know if you'll lose these plugin mappings. It's kind of a pain to do this multiple times like I have over the years, and I just never remember to hit save on these plugin mappings. I'm going to remember this year. So really, the only downside of these is you can't wrap the stock plugins. It only works with Audio Unit and VST plugins or RTAS plugin, but no one uses those anymore. I really like this system. I don't think there's anything else that's really not like proprietary, where it doesn't really have the same limitations, where you can't wrap the stock plugins, or you're like stuck with, let's say, the Softtube plugins with the Console One. Or it's a generic thing and you have to make kind of a really generic layout so it works with all plugins kind of half-assed. I really like this system, and you can get it for like $30 these days. I think it's well worth getting. But that's what's going on. I love this thing. Check it out on eBay or Craigslist or wherever. I'm not getting paid to say this. I spent my own money on these things, and I think they're well worth it when you get them for under $100. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon, and visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.